So this is Slouch hats and eggshells, the Allied invasion of Syria and Lebanon from Legion Games. And as you can see, the map covers all this area here. So compared to OCS's game, this is much more zoomed out because their game is zoomed in, basically covers most of this area here. You don't get the border to Iraq or anything like that. And this is only 5 turns for the historical game, I think it is, and then or 6, and then the next 2 turns is for the second scenario in the game for a more active German involvement. And then we have our setup cards, informational card here, Allied boxes. From what I've read on Board Game Geek, this similar to the East Front games, but a little bit more simplified compared to that. But in the designer notes of this game, this actually connects to his previous design of Rommel's War. And they said it connected to the L2 edition, but that was quite expensive secondary market. But I was able to pick up the 1980s version, so I don't know if that actually will connect to this, not map wise, because the map doesn't reach this area. But in the rules they mention a few things about Rommel's War and this game. So some initial ideas on this kind of play out to have an initial strategy of not really knowing this. But it's interesting is each turn here you have the first operation and then the second operation. So everybody gets basically 2 turns per, except the first turn's a little off. The Germans don't get their first off, the Allies do, and then it's regular for the second one. And the key to this game is all about supply. All these units here, and the trucks. So as anything in basically North Africa is supply driven, I don't know how supply centric the East Front games are. I haven't really looked at them. Basically for the Allies, I could have set up more units here, but I'm thinking pushing hard in here to get the Damascus, these victory points here, Beirut, because the Allies will earn victory points per turn, and I think this is 2, which will help win this. And if there's only a few turns compared to the OCS game, you gotta get moving pretty quick, and so putting all my force here. But in the next reinforcements will come in on this area here for Iraq entry. So you'll have a nice flanking thing on these units, so that will be interesting compared to the other game. You didn't have that option. Basically, it was the French could turtle in this area quite easily and have the terrain being very helpful, and just a few axes of attack because of the terrain. But with this Iraq thing, you can really come around and come behind the units. The other interesting thing is supply reasons for these guys. It's coming from Greece, flying it in, or port-wise, but there's an option of getting supply through Turkey. And the other interesting thing is we have events. So this is nice that for replayability, each game you'll pull these different events. So that's kind of unique. So yeah, for the French wise, basically defend as much as I can. Yeah, like here, I'm just having, I was going to plan having a major attack here, but I don't know about how much supply off of this just one road would work. Being the first time to play, just use this unit, just use the zone of control to cut off these roads for these units to get stuck back here. So they'll have to either fight through the unit, burn supply, which will be good, and push through. Because here they can push up and just have these guys basically cut off. Yeah, so that's some initial thoughts and ideas and on the game here. And we'll start with the first turn. So this is the beginning of turn 2. So on turn 1, since there's only one op for the allies, and then both sides get they do the second op phase. So the Vichy pushed here, limited the unit. So the zone of control, they would not blocking them, and they can sneak through this little gap here. They pull back to form a line here. The Commonwealth guys and the Free French basically used up all their supply here to do some attacks, but the Vichy blew up the one supply point, so the Free French didn't do their attack, but the Commonwealth here were able to attack into this hex, forcing this unit and killing a unit out. This guy is basically cut off. And yeah, the light units here with the L here and here, if they get attacked by more heavier units, those units get doubled. So that's a bit of a unique thing there, and the supply is pretty much key here. But as you see, the 3-1 each turn, the allies get 3 until the last turn they get 4-2, and you can only bring that supply out if you have available supply markers. So if you're not burning your supply, you're not receiving any. So it's A, forcing you to use it or lose it kind of thing. But you use the supply for attacks or moving mechanized units. And or placing supply out to give you general supply, but that's more a problem for the Vichy right now because they're spread out all over the place, and the allies are kind of concentrated here, and, where all the victory points are. But later turns, we get units come in here from Iraq, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. On to turn. So this is the end of turn 2, start of turn 3. The Allies were able to knock down the level here on Port Beirut. And turn 2, they're able to push in here a bit, killed a few units, prevented the supply and one of the replacements coming in. They were being naval transported in, and they were blocked. The light units are not supplied, so these ports are kind of keeping the regular troops supplied, but the Allies are burning through their supply, doing the attacks. We've got some supply here, trying to save it to get position to attack in here. The Druze kind of blocking the positions here. Most of the supplies for these guys at the moment is coming through the Middle East area, so that's easy enough for them. We're just trying to get combat supply in is where you got to manage that. Some of the attacks damaged units on the Ally side. They lost one unit. But kind of quiet in the beginning. But I mean, this is turn 3. This is halfway through the game. And we've basically only got over the river here. So, on to turn 3. So this is the end of turn 3. The Vichy have surrendered. That on the victory determination phase at the end of 3, I can roll. I rolled a 6 with a modifier of +4 because they took 4 victory points on this turn. This guy took that airfield there. On the earlier turn, they took that one. Victory points, and that there's a victory points under here. And then they got the special event, and that gave to get supplied through Turkey, gave a victory point to the Allies. Or not. Oh, it's a -1 victory for Vichy, so they didn't have any, so it was a +3 modifier, but which gives me a 9, which was 8 or more, and Allies won. So, end of turn 3, game over. Vichy surrendered. And reasoning of using the victory points for the turn to try to end it quickly, because on this turn we were able to push these units back a few more hexes for Beirut, and Beirut will be earning 3 victory points per turn, and Damascus here is 2 victory points, 2 turns. Since this kind of opened up, and with the ridge line here, I would have to move these forces over, because that's all I have for doing things here. really, because these guys are covering there. These guys were becoming ungarrisoned, but taking to move all these guys down would take a bit, and hopefully they can do it, because in this game it's a little odd with supply, because the allies get 3 supply points per turn. That's a point for movement, point for each combat, so you can only do one or the other. Movement for mechanized, and since these were the only mechanized units that came in so far, everybody else was able to move around, but and Vichy was keeping their guys kind of set instead of using supply. And they got Beirut's knocked, so the supply out of Beirut was going to be a little limited, but with Turkey, that was going to help so much more bringing units in, but they lost quite a bit this round, but it was just light units. And the light units are problematic, especially with all these guys double each time they hit combat, so it's sticking them in the mountains and having them on the flanks where most of the allied light units were. But a little tricky for Vichy. Lucky die roll on the final turn here, and that's game. So interesting little puzzle here for this thing. For scenario 1, which is historical, because scenario 2 is more German activity, like German units come in more, and it's kind of linked to Rommel's War scenario. So if you have Rommel's War, you have this off to the side, and you can do both together. Well, and so that's Slouch, Hats, and Eggshells game here. A little quick, small game. Much bigger area compared to the one for OCS. And that's the final.